So here's the sitch on the ATLBox Score today. We have Michael Brumagin from CNN Sports on the show today to talk all things NBA, from the NBA playoffs to the situation that's going on with Luke Walton right now. Even the real reason why Magic Johnson left the Lakers. This is Prostyle Thursday, and you're listening to Atlanta's newest sports podcast, the ATLBox Score. With starting a new podcast, people ask me all the time, Alex, where do you record your show at? Do you do it at your house? No, I don't do it at my house because of just a lot of different logistical factors. The place that I do it at is actually a place called Spaces, Midtown East. And Spaces is a co-working center where I get my show recorded and I get other work done. Co-working has been one of these new phenomenons in the private business sector that has popped up recently. And Spaces also has another brand called Regis, which is more of a professional brand. Spaces is more for creators like myself. But to tell you more about these special brands in the business world is Mr. Steve Choi.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate those kind words. We absolutely love having you and ATLBox Score as part of our space. It's always great when we see you doing your work. But absolutely, Spaces and the Regis concept, we are both workplace providers here in the Atlanta area, but all around the world. We have over 250 Spaces locations worldwide, plus over 1,500 Regis locations. And what we're really here to do is just provide flexible options for any type of professional, whether you're an independent professional, creative, or if you're a large or small business. So we have several different types of options from small to large and memberships, part-time, full-time. So definitely come on out and check us out. Go ahead and look at the link on Alex's site and ask for Steve Choi. And if you ever come into one of our locations, let us know that Alex sent you or ATLBox Score, and we'll go ahead and set you up with a free 5-day test drive.
Yeah, you can't beat that 5-day test drive. In those 5 days, you will know if Spaces or Regis is the right brand for you. And Spaces is all over the place. They're a little bit more limited, but they're in the main areas of the city. The one we are is right in the heart of Midtown, near the Fox Theater. There's one at the Battery. There's going to be one opening up North Point Mall there. And there's also a location in Colony Square. So they are all over the metro area. At just about any major business building in the Atlanta area has a Regis in it. So just Google them. But Spaces and Regis and Steve Choi in particular is your place to do your business. Well, welcome back, guys. We kind of played hooky on Monday without doing a show. There really wasn't a lot to talk about on Monday. It just didn't give you that much excitement. What happened in sports? I mean, G-Day was sadly probably one of the biggest highlights in this area, and at least they didn't outscore each other, or at least they didn't outscore each other like the Florida game. At least they kept it close, and there was some sort of defense that Georgia plays, because defense does win championships. That should probably be the name of this podcast now that I think about it, because Mike talks about defense winning championships. But with that being said, welcome back, guys. This segment is kind of going to be a little bit abbreviated because it's just me here in studio, and me and Mike have a long conversation because there's a lot of catching up to do. We haven't had Mike on the show for a while, and we thought that we would bring him back, and it's just time to talk some playoffs and stuff, and some other dirty laundry that's going on in the NBA right now with that Luke Walton situation. Oh my gosh! And also too, unfortunately, the Atlanta Braves, when we left you guys on Football Friday, they were going through a struggle. They were on a losing streak, and then they went to play the Indians, and got 2 wins out of the Indians, lost to the Reds, and then they play the Reds tonight. So 12-11, which usually a lot of the good teams right now in the standings, because they're third right now, but a lot of these teams pretty much have the same record that are the good teams. I mean, it seems like at least everyone in Major League Baseball at this point has 10 losses, but 10 or more losses. But the Atlanta Braves still staying strong. I mean, if you get a 12th win, you're in a 3-way tie with the Mets, Phillies, in the standings. So the Braves are doing decent. Braves are keeping their head above water. With what's going on right now in baseball. You also, today is we are in draft day, actually. The NFL draft, now they have it on a Thursday. Man, I'm so used to it being on a Saturday sometimes, but it's cool. I like that it's been on a Thursday for the it's for like the past almost 10 years. 9 years actually. So it's cool that you get to go home and watch the draft after a long day at work. But we are in draft day, and draft eve was yesterday. So I know that a lot of you guys, a lot of Falcons people out there wondering what they're going to do. Are they going to go cornerback? Are they going to go lineman? I know that's the buzz right now. What position are the Falcons gonna, or where are the Falcons gonna draft, and who are they gonna get because of their losing record that they had this past year. So a lot of questions, and I know there are going to be a lot of answers, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you people are going to be angry at Thomas Dimitroff when it's all said and done. Atlanta United right now is just out an island, still just scrapping by to get wins. I mean, they had their first win a while ago, and it's been a minute. So definitely Atlanta United looks like they're in a rebuilding, just a rebuilding mode right now, which usually, that happens when you have a new head coach that wants to do a totally new system, and just going through a lot of transition right now, but they play Colorado on Saturday, so hopefully they can bounce back and get that win. They did play. I'm glad there's actually a team that's beaten New England team. So they did get that win against New England a couple weekends ago. So Atlanta United still just in the midst of a rebuilding season. At least the beginning half, it's looking that way. So still be patient and everything. But with that being said, just wanted to say, if you like what you heard so far, if you like the NBA talk that we're about to about to give you. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you can. I know maybe a lot of you guys are listening to us in traffic or wherever you're listening. If you could do this, that huge favor whenever you get a chance, just to like, subscribe, comment, give us a 5-star rating. We are a 4.3 on iTunes, and we need your help to get that 4.5, 4.6, 4, or even that 5.0. So we need your guys' help to help us get over that edge. But I'm glad that we're getting a lot of positive reviews on iTunes, and appreciate you guys choosing to listen to us, because you could have gone anywhere. You could have gone to a different podcast or different station, but we're glad that you're here with us. So if you're commuting or whatever you're doing yard work, I know that spring has sprung and it's in full force. I've been on Claritin since the beginning of April, so if you're doing yard work or working out, appreciate that you are joining us. And I am Alex Berger, the guy who's been speaking for the past 7 minutes. And now we're just going to get Mike on the show. Mike is from, just to give you a background, Mike's from CNN Sports, covered the NBA with SheridanHoops.com when that was a thing, and covered a lot of Hawks games here in the city of Atlanta, knows the league like the back of his hand, and we're just so glad that we can have him on today to bring us the NBA knowledge and to talk about like the stuff that's going on in the league, especially with that Luke Walton situation. Oh my gosh. You, like, I don't know if you've seen Chappelle's show. But there's the thing, if Mike's listening, I know he's going to like this, but there's this thing, right, where he does this Tupac coming back from the dead, and or pre-recorded pre-recorded album that Tupac did, but it was like he was a ghost in the room and like pointing out different things, and one of the things he says is like, Chappelle, that's not your wife. That's what someone should have said to Luke Walton back there in those days. Like, don't take her up to the room. Luke, that's not your wife. So, with that being said, now we're going to just bring on Mr. Mike Brumagin. Now, bringing on to the conversation here at the ATLBox Score, we have Mr. Mike Brumagin. Mike, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm good. So a lot has happened since the last time you've been on the show. The NBA playoffs have started, but you've just been all over the place. I know you helped out with the Masters tournament. So how are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Just catching my breath in the middle of a lot of work going on, and just busy life with a baby and Marvel Endgame, all that stuff.
Gotcha. So you plan on seeing that tomorrow?
I'm seeing that tonight.
Oh, you're seeing that tonight? Oh, that's right. It is. I'm so disshuffled. I got my days mixed up. So you're passing that over the NFL draft.
Yeah. I'll just have to watch the draft later.
Gotcha.
Or catch the highlights.
Gotcha.
I don't want to get my movie experience spoiled by other people, so I'm trying to go opening night.
I see. Okay, well, cool. Did you get those tickets in advance, or?
Yeah, I ordered those tickets the day they went on sale.
Dang. Well, you were right though about the Duke players coming out with Zion Williams. I mean, everyone saw that, but yeah. What's your thoughts on this Luke Walton situation that's going on?
I mean, it's hard to say because there's no charges actually being pressed. The Kelly Tennant, who's she was a former sports broadcaster on out in LA and for Spectrum Sportsnet. And the incident happened like 5 years ago, before Luke Walton was even the head coach of the Lakers. He was the assistant coach with the Golden State Warriors. She was in Golden State. They had a rapport before, and she had written a book, and so she was trying to meet him to give him a copy of the book to read. And apparently, from what she alleges, he invited her up to his room. She wanted to just go to the lobby area, or like the downstairs like bar or whatever, and discuss it there out in the open. But he said that he didn't want to wind up being somewhere where the players might be. So he invited her up to her room, and she said, knowing that he had a wife and a family and everything, that she felt comfortable and trusting of him to go up there. But then he started kissing on her, touching her, groping her, pressed her down to the bed. To quote her, he was rubbing his erection on her leg. So in her mind, she thought he was going to rape her. She was saying no, and so it's pretty bad. There's not going to be she's not, like I said, she hasn't pressed any charges. They don't know that they could press charges now because it happened so long ago that it'd be really hard to investigate.
Right.
But so she's filed a lawsuit. It's a civil suit, and so basically, it's her word versus his word. There's and that's really all it comes down to. To my knowledge, they haven't released any other facts. I imagine her lawyers are holding tight to that to try to unveil in the court case. If they have other stuff to try to prove that this incident happened. So we kind of need to wait and see what happens with the actual court case if it goes to court. The optics look bad for him either way.
Right.
I mean, if it goes to court and they settle, settling isn't admission of guilt, but if you settle, then public opinion, it looks like you're guilty. You're just buying her off, that type of thing. So there's no real good way for him out of this other than to actually prove himself innocent in court. And all that does, since, like I said, this isn't a legal case, this is a civil case, all that does would prevent him from having to pay any, reparations to her for what she's been through or what she alleges to have been through.
Now, this was an away game?
Yeah, she was covering an away game in Golden State, and she stopped by the hotel, the team hotel, to meet with him. I forget the name of the hotel. It's one of those fancier hotels. And recent, as of today, the NBA and both the Sacramento Kings, who is his current employer, he just recently parted ways with the Lakers and was hired with the Sacramento Kings. Both the Kings and the NBA have begun a joint investigation into the allegations, and they've hired two separate lawyers, pretty big name lawyers. The Kings hired Sue Ann Van Dermeden, who's a partner of a Sacramento law firm, and she's an expert in employment law. So she's going to be working in conjunction with Jennifer Doughty, who's a veteran investigator and senior associate attorney with her firm. They'll be heading up the investigation on the Kings' behalf, and the league has hired Elizabeth Maringer, who's a senior vice president. Well, she's already on staff, but that's who they've appointed to lead the investigation for them. Her background: she was an assistant United States attorney in the Southern District of New York for 12 years and served 3 years as the deputy chief of criminal division. So she's pretty well versed in investigations and things of this nature. So I think between it's not like not to be badgering the NFL or making the NFL look dumb, but anytime the NFL does quote investigations, they always hire people who are not really good at what they do, or literally just doing their stuff to try to make the NFL look good.
Right.
They're not they're not working objectively. They're working literally for the NBA. I mean, for the NFL, but the NBA, the person who, like I said, she, full stop, she works for the NBA now, but her background, she actually comes from, a background that's in the criminal world, investigating and prosecuting, stuff like that. And the lawyers that the Kings have hired also come from a pretty tight investigatory background. So I think, whatever they find out, we'll know if it's baseless as Walton's attorney alleges or if there's truth to it. Because once they complete their investigation, if we see the Kings firing him, then we know that there's something to it.
Right, there's something up there. Has he had a history with any of this stuff, to any of your knowledge? Have things come out about that he's a womanizer, or
this is the first thing I've ever heard of him. People who've interacted with him and talked with him, beat writers and people in the media and other people within the league, like he's pretty well regarded as being a nice guy, a good guy, family guy. He doesn't have a reputation of doing these kind of things, so it seems out of character for him. But and as we've seen with plenty of people in Hollywood in recent years, just because they seem one way in the public or to people on a casual basis doesn't mean that that's what they're like behind closed doors. So while we haven't heard of anything like this before with him, it doesn't mean that this isn't within his character.
Right. Do you feel like she's telling the truth?
I have no idea. I don't know her personally, so I can't really make a basis.
Well, just on, because obviously, like, there's interview she did with CNN, and just based off of that. I
mean, like I said, not knowing her, it'd be really hard to say. Her story's been consistent. So that's usually, and I'm not an investigator, so, I can't speak. That's not my expertise. But generally when people are consistent with their story, then either they truly believe that it happened, whether it did or not, or it's actually true, or they're very, very good liars. So that's as far as I can go. I don't want to speculate because, it hasn't gone to court, and I'm not her, and I'm not God, and I can't really make that kind of judgment. I wasn't there when it happened.
Right, absolutely. Why do you think this is coming out now? Because he just got fired from the Lakers, taking over for a team that's kind of terrible.
Well, if you go back to, I wish I remember where I saw it. The original allegations, the court papers that she had filed, part of the court case she's making, because when you do a civil court, you have to establish, so how civil courts work, right? You're suing for X, Y, Z, this thing happened, so I deserve this amount of reparations. So for her to try to put a tag number on how much she feels like what she went through is worth, she needs to establish what level of pain it caused. And, if you look at the stuff that first came out regarding the suit that she filed, some of the stuff that it said, it was talking about how, she felt uncomfortable in her workplace, felt like she couldn't really do her job because she had to interact with him all the time, especially after he left the Warriors and became the coach in LA. Then he was in her market, so she couldn't avoid him.
Right.
Period.
Right.
You know, like, and that just made working at Comcast, you know, that much more difficult. And Comcast, they have a broadcast deal with the Lakers, so you know, you're not going to be able to avoid them. You're covering, you know, 82 games a year. So, you know, she wasn't comfortable working at her job that she loved, you know, and I don't know if she's worked since. I'm not sure. I hadn't really followed her career from that point, but, you know, like, I could see where, you know, like, she's definitely trying to make the case that, like, because of what happened to her and then his, you know, not just that one night, but then, like, she alleged that, you know, in repeated follow-up, you know, interactions with him, like, you know, at games and things, he would uncomfortably bear hug her and whisper sweet nothings in her ear and things, and, you know, like, just doing things that made her all the more uncomfortable.
Right, just creeper stuff.
Right, and it just made her job that much more difficult. So I don't know why she waited till now, but that's what we got going on.
Do you think it's because he just got fired from the Lakers? And now she feels like she can air this stuff out?
I don't know. So here's the weird thing is, like, prior to him parting ways with the Lakers, aside from the fact that everybody expected him to get fired because they weren't doing well, the word had always been that Jeannie Buss liked him, and that's why he had the job, was because the president, not president of basketball, but, you know, like, the CEO of the team, the CEO and owner of the team, Jeannie Buss, had such great reverence for him and love for him. And so, like, and some people after Magic had stepped down and speculated that, you know, maybe they might try to keep him or something. I don't know, man. My timelines get messed up in my head. Maybe I can't remember. But just so much going on. But, like, for me, like, it just seems questionable. Like, all right, the thing I thought was, aside from his performance with the team recently, and, you know, the whisper, like, LeBron has never publicly said that he didn't like Walton. He probably never will. But many people have, you know, reported and said behind the scenes that, you know, that's the word, that he's not happy. So aside from that and other stuff, I couldn't help but feel like when they parted ways, like, is it possible that the Lakers got word of this, you know, before it ever came out, before the lawsuit was filed? And maybe this contributed to their reasoning for, because he wasn't just fired. If you go back to the press release that came out when it was that they mutually decided to part ways. And part of that was, you know, they want to move on and find a better coach or whatever, find a coach that fits with LeBron and can draw in a free agent to play with LeBron. You know, that makes sense. And part of it was that he had already worked out a deal to get the head coaching job in Sacramento, like, immediately.
Yeah.
But could it be possible that they knew about it ahead of time and that contributed to the reason to let him go? I don't know. Who knows? Stuff like this. I don't have connections to Jeannie Buss. I don't know what she might have known. I mean, it happened.
Do you think this is probably one of the reasons why Magic left the Lakers? Because there were stories like this that were going to surface?
No, actually, something that came out, Rick Bucher, I'm sure you're familiar with who Rick Bucher is.
Yeah.
He's been around for years reporting on ESPN and stuff. He actually came out today, earlier today, and he said that, or was it yesterday? He recently, within the last 24 hours, he came out and he reported that what contributed to Magic Johnson's desire to want to leave and quit was that Jeannie Buss and general manager Rob Pelinka had been exchanging emails disparaging Magic behind his back. but the caveat is that they had made the mistake of blind CCing Magic in those emails. So Magic was receiving the emails that they were sending to each other, talking bad about him. So that's what Rick Bucher reported. No idea if there's truth to it, but to add fuel to the fire, Magic shortly after that report put out he put out a tweet that, like, without any context, and he just said, the truth will come to light. You could take that how you will, but most people are kind of adding one and one and like, okay, this report from Bucher came out about this email, and now Magic's saying the truth came to light. So that seems to be something that contributed to his reasoning for leaving, is that the people he was working for
We're just being shady,
speaking ill of him.
Yeah. It seems like the Lakers, the only positive thing they did was sign LeBron James. Outside of that, I mean, their performance on the court this year was terrible. And now you have stories like this, and it just seems like it's one thing after another, and it seems like the Lakers are kind of in a snowball effect. Do you feel like there's going to be more stories coming out
like
about the Lakers?
It's like a freaking soap opera.
That's exactly how to describe it. It is a freaking soap opera.
As the Lakers
right
turn.
Yeah,
or
for real.
Days of our Lakers.
Days of our Lakers. Yeah. So, do you feel like there's more to come, or is this the end, or are we just in the middle of it?
I don't think that there's any more to do with this Luke Walton situation that's going to affect, the team going forward. The primary incident happened while he was with the Warriors, not even on the Lakers staff. So, that doesn't, and that's everything to do with that is strictly about Luke, and it's not about the team. So I don't think I don't think this situation, no matter how it plays out, would negatively affect the Lakers as a team. The Magic Johnson situation, however, if proven true, I think that's just going to make it more difficult for them to hire people, whether it be coaches or a new president, who are going to want to commit to working with Jeannie Buss and or Rob Pelinka long term. Honestly, I can't see them hiring a new president without, especially if they're, for all the talk that they want to try to get somebody that's going to be top tier. There's some reports that they're looking into trying to lure somebody from a playoff team. It's like, if that's true, and if that's what they want to do for their president, first of all, why are they trying to hire a coach before they hire their president? Second, that president, if it's a top-tier guy, is going to want assurances that they can fire Pelinka and hire someone that they want. They're going to want their own staff. So if they know how the business works, and they know that if they try to hire a big-name NBA president, that president's going to want to have his own people, why are they allowing Pelinka to move forward with interviews with all these different potential coaches? It doesn't make sense to let Pelinka pick the coach if you're going to hire a new president who may or may not want to keep Pelinka as general manager. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that I think are going to have more of a lasting impact this offseason as things move forward for the Lakers. The Walton situation is squarely on Walton's shoulders and doesn't have any reflection on the team.
Mm-hmm. How attractive, though, is getting the Laker job?
Well, it's one of the most storied franchises in the league. There's really only two storied franchises, the Lakers and the Celtics.
But I mean, can you win championships right away if you become the Lakers head coach, or is just
it depends on who they are. Like certain people are going to come with their own relationships with different players, which might potentially give them an edge in trying to lure those free agents. Like if they hired Masai Ujiri, who is currently the general manager for the Raptors, who are in the playoffs. If they hired him to be their president, he's going to come with his relationship intact with Kawhi Leonard, who's going to be a free agent. And Masai is a big reason why Kawhi is in Toronto. Masai went out of his way to build a relationship, and as things soured between Kawhi and the Spurs, Masai made the trade with the Spurs happen so that he could acquire Kawhi. And since then, he's cultivated and continued to build his relationship with Kawhi. So he's on good standings because, being the general manager there, of course, he wants to try to convince him to stay in Toronto. But if he were to get hired to LA, he'd be bringing that relationship with him and could help to convince Kawhi to go to the Lakers instead of some other team. So, situations like that, like if they hired, someone from the front office, from the Warriors, right? And Kevin Durant's about to become a free agent, and Klay Thompson's about to be a free agent. That person might be able to help with luring those guys as free agents. So you're not just hiring a person just for themselves, you're also hiring them for the relationships they have in the league. So depending on who they hire to be their president could adversely affect whether or not they're able to move towards the championship, because it's going to affect who they're able to acquire as free agents. And another thing is like many people have said before me, whoever they get as a president is going to need to have the authority to replace Rob Pelinka, because Rob Pelinka is not well liked around the league. A lot of general managers don't want to deal with him. Why? Because he used to be an agent. Not just any agent, he was Kobe's agent. He was a ruthless agent. He was known for trying to take every last penny he could get out of teams and general managers. So now that he is the general manager, other teams and other general managers don't want to take his phone calls. They don't want to work with him. They don't want to give him good deals.
Yeah, it seems like they're in a place right now that they're just in a hole that they can't get out of. Let's
an update to a story we talked about a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Remember we were talking about Lonzo Ball's situation with his father's friend, Gregory Allen Foster, who had stolen like roughly $1.5 million from Big Baller Brands.
Yeah.
Well, so recent news is that the FBI is now getting involved in.
Oh, dang.
In this situation. So, and as we had said before, this dude has a history. He defrauded investors out of millions of dollars and went to federal prison for it. The tragedy here is that Lonzo Ball trusted his dad, not knowing anything about this guy, because he recently said that he didn't know that Foster had, criminal past involving stealing money from investors. And it's like for you to implicitly trust your dad,
right, is your downfall,
and trust his judgment to hire this guy on who has this kind of background, and then just trust this guy because of his relationship with your dad with all your money. That's rough. Mm-hmm. So, but fortunately, the FBI is going to get involved, and hopefully they'll be able to get everything figured out, and justice will be had. Because that's not cool to lose a bunch of money because some guy is a criminal.
Right.
He has the background to prove it.
Right. Yeah. Yep, that's... Let's shift our attention on the court, and I just want to get your thoughts on the NBA playoffs so far. What are your thoughts on a lot of these series? Because it seems like a lot of these series in the East are pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah, they're waiting to start the second round in the East. All of the first round series ended pretty swiftly, 4-0, 4-0, 4-1, 4-1. The West, though, is still trudging along. You got two series that are 3-2 and holding everything up. So that's what we're waiting on. Otherwise, we'd be in the second round already. But the Nuggets wanted to take the long route to try to beat the Spurs. They let the Spurs jump out ahead 1-0 and then had to fight their way back to getting the series tied at 2-2, and now they're up 3-2. The surprise though is the Clippers.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have won a single game against the Warriors. Instead, they won the very first game, which was in Golden State, and then they most recently won last night.
Yeah, they won one on Thursday.
Also in Golden
Wednesday
State.
night. My bad. Yeah, they won one on Wednesday night. So.
But not game one. They won game two. They won, but that was in Golden State. So the two wins they have were both on the road. They lost both home games in Los Angeles, but their next game, Game 6, is going to be in Los Angeles. So I would like to see them win it. I would like to see them force a Game 7. They've already proven it twice that they can win in Golden State. It'd be nice to see them win Game 7 and win Game 6 and force that. So you got the team with the most superstars on it, Golden State. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. You got Boogie Cousins, who, of course, got injured, as we know,
right,
and tore his muscle in his leg. But even without him, their team is still stacked. Their team is still a championship team. And yet, this team with no superstars, literally, the Clippers have no superstars, no all-stars on their roster, and they took 2 games from them. That's a huge tribute to who they are as a team, their heart, their will, and to their coach.
Mm-hmm. Do you think with Golden State though that these guys are bored, that they've been there, done that? Yeah, we play soft teams in the first round.
I don't think it's that they're bored. It seems like they're just lackadaisical or lazy, specifically on defense. That's what happened last night. They didn't play good defense. And if the old adage in all sports for forever, defense wins championships. There's, if you don't play defense and you just rely solely on your offense, you're going to win some games. But you're also more prone to being able to lose games because you're giving up points.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you saw the highlights, but to me the most entertaining playoff game I've seen in ages was that series clincher between the Trailblazers and the Thunder. Game was wildly entertaining.
Really?
Wildly entertaining. Damian Lillard had 34 points in the first half.
Dang.
Paul George had was it Paul George or Westbrook? One of the two of them had 23 points in the first half. And then you get towards the end of the game in the fourth quarter, the Thunder finally take the lead. Then the Thunder got up by, I believe, about 11 points. With 4 minutes left, they were up by 11 points. And then methodically, the Trailblazers start chipping away at the lead. And next thing you know, the game is tied.
Mm-hmm.
And then Paul George hits a mid-range jumper. And the Thunder are back up. And then Damian Lillard gets a layup, and the game is tied again. Mm-hmm. And then Paul George hits another shot. And then Damian Lillard scores again. It's just back and forth. And then finally, the Thunder broke tradition. They missed a shot. Portland gets the rebound. Seconds left. Lillard brings the ball up. Paul George, who is in contention for the Defensive Player of the Year and is easily the best defender on the Thunder, he's out there guarding Dame Lillard. Lillard's 40 feet away from the basket. Does a step back to the right, pulls up, drains a three. And it was slow motion.
Nice. Nice.
the ball hung in the air so long that Lillard took like 5 steps backwards before the ball went through the net.
Mm-hmm.
It was just ridiculous. And Paul George and Russell Westbrook have been talking trash to him all series. And because the Trailblazers got swept out of the first round last year. They went from being swept out of the first round to this year they were up 3-1 with a chance to put the Thunder away, and Lillard took it on himself, hit that 3, put the game away, and he had 50 points in doing so. It was phenomenal. And after the ball went through the net, he turns and stares down the Thunder, and he starts waving bye to them. It was so magnificent. It was glorious to watch.
Wow, that sounds like fun. That sounds like a fun game. What I'm really curious about, too, is this, because you mentioned it at the beginning, when we first talked about the playoffs, the San Antonio-Denver series.
Mm-hmm.
Is it pretty much Denver's to lose?
Well, they are up 3-2, and that means they got 2 games to be able to win to move on. The Spurs have to. They can win either of those 2. The Spurs have to win both.
Right.
So they definitely have mathematically they have the advantage. Now, will they capitalize on that? They've been pretty thus far in this series. They've been pretty up and down, so it's really hard to gauge. They play tonight, so we'll find out.
Do you think if they advance, that they would get eaten alive by whoever they played next?
No. They are the 2 seed for a reason. They are pretty good.
If San Antonio somehow, for example, we all expect Denver's going to win, but if San Antonio pulls this out, like you said, they are up and down, so the most likely that not happening is pretty slim to none. But if it does, would San Antonio get eaten alive in the second round?
No, I think so either of these teams win, they're going to face the Trailblazers. And I think both of these teams match up well with the Blazers because if the Blazers were fully healthy, that would be one thing, but they're not. Yusuf Nurkic is out for the rest of the year with an injury. He's not going to be playing. So it's literally just Lillard and McCollum and everybody else. That's what the Trailblazers got. They got Lillard and McCollum and everybody else. And you look at both Denver and the Spurs, they have good coaches, smart coaches. They have big men who can play really well on offense, play smart on offense, are willing passers, good passers, but can also play in the post and can shoot. Nikola Jokic, he's capable 3-point shooter. He's a capable post player. He's probably the best passing big man in the league right now. He plays for Denver. You got on the Spurs, you got LaMarcus Aldridge. He's a really good, range shooter. He can't really shoot the 3 as good, but he can shoot deep 2s. Got a good mid-range shot, and he can play in the post. So either one of those teams will be able to take advantage of Nurkic being injured and try to body up on Portland in the post. Because if you look at Portland, with Nurkic being out, they're relying on, backups to try to handle that load. And that's, when you get to playoffs, you need your best of your best. Backups can be helpful, but it's not optimal.
Right. With the Rockets, since they clinched against the Jazz, do you, and let's say Golden State wins their series, do you feel like if Golden State played the Rockets that you would see a game 7 with that series?
Here's the question. I'll answer your question with a question. Does Chris Paul stay healthy for the whole series? Because that's essentially what happened last year.
Mhm.
Last year, the Rockets were up in that series, and by all rights, they should have won. They had a 3-2 lead with 2 games left in the series, and they should have won that series. But Chris Paul was hurt. He re-injured his hamstring, and he couldn't play. And that diversely affected their ability to play defense and spread the ball on offense. So it affected them on both sides of the ball, and they didn't recover. They wound up losing the series. So even though offensively James Harden has become more of their system, like they pretty much do everything through Harden this year as opposed to last year, Chris Paul is still an integral part of that team, and they need him if they're going to win the series. So, gotta ask, is he going to be able to stay healthy for the whole series if it's going 7? Because his health and his injury history in the postseason, much less in general, is not great. So I think that's going to play a big part of it. If they stay fully healthy, I think they can definitely take it 7 games. I don't know if they'll win. I would like to see it, but they definitely have the capacity to do so, and they could win if they play their best game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to talk to you about the 2 series going on in the East, since this is all fresh and everything like that. Milwaukee going up against Boston. Do you feel like that series is going to be close, or is just Milwaukee just going to dominate like they've done all season?
I don't think it's going to be a domination. Both these teams swept their first-round opponents, and Boston seems to be playing pretty well. The thing is if you go down the line, you look at the rosters. While you could look at Eric Bledsoe and contrast him with Kyrie Irving, you could say Kyrie definitely is the better point guard. Bledsoe's not a slouch, so it's not. Kyrie isn't going to dominate Bledsoe. Kyrie doesn't play defense as well as Bledsoe. So, I think that's close to a push. And then, pretty much every position, it's a push, and then you get to Giannis Antetokounmpo. And there's nothing on the Boston roster they can throw at him to stop him. So while I think Boston could win a few games, if the Bucks are playing their best ball, they shouldn't lose this series to the Celtics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it all falls squarely on Giannis's shoulders. They go as he goes. If he plays to his capacity, he plays to his full potential, then they should win this series. And it shouldn't be a question that they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's that good.
What do you see this series as, going to Game 6, 7?
Yeah, I could see it going 6. I don't imagine, because Bud is a really good coach. I think he's underrated. You got to remember, Bud was coach of the Hawks when the Hawks had their 60-win seasons. He knows how to coach. He knows his way around the playoffs. He knows, how to get his guys ready, and he knows his X's and O's. He's going to be able to make adjustments. So, for all the people who like to look at the Celtics and look at Brad Stevens and say that he's a savant and everything, like, Coach Bud is right there with him. I think they're probably on the same tier. They're probably like on that second tier below Greg Popovich and a couple other guys until they win championships, But I think coaching edge, there really isn't one, and so I think for any adjustments that the Celtics make, Coach Bud is going to be fully capable of making adjustments back. So he'll have his guys ready.
I don't mean to say this prematurely, and maybe you can laugh at me if this doesn't happen. But let's just say, hypothetically, what you're talking about with Coach Bud, he can handle these situations. He's proved it here that he can handle those situations. But we really haven't seen him go deep into the playoffs except when the Hawks made it to the the Eastern Conference Finals. And it was the injuries that pretty much caught up with the Hawks, that it was just a war of nutrition once they got into the playoffs. But if the Bucks go all the way this year, do you think Coach Bud could handle those moments, or will those moments be too big for him? You really
I
have to
don't
think
see why
about
not. Do you think about it? Yeah, you can look at injuries, but also he wasn't just going up against injuries. He was going up against LeBron James. So that's no easy task. You got going against LeBron James with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. That's a formidable team. And even though Kevin Love was injured at that time, it's still, that team was really good. And LeBron James is really good. And that was LeBron at the height of his powers. LeBron was a monster, and that's why the Cavs swept them. It's not. You look at these other teams. Celtics couldn't get past LeBron. No, for the past 8 years, LeBron ruled the East. No one got past him. So you can't really look at Bud and then kind of say, oh well, he's not up to the task or anything, because it's LeBron is LeBron, and nobody was getting past him. So you could look at Brad Stevens and say the same thing, because he lost LeBron more times than Bud did, or just as many.
Well,
so I don't fault him for that. I think he's a plenty good coach, and I think he's gonna do an excellent job.
So when he gets in if he gets those big moments this year, that he'll come through.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they got a really good team, dude. Giannis, people fault Giannis. They say he can't shoot very well, but his shot is coming around. It's still not great, but he's been hitting some threes in the playoffs. But they don't need it. He's primarily best at driving to the basket and getting close to the rim. He's the best in the league at that. And that's all they need for him to do, because they have shooters at every position around him. Everyone else on the floor around him can shoot threes and shoot them well. Their center, Brook Lopez, is shooting threes at an above-average clip this season. When your center can shoot threes that well and everyone else on the floor can shoot that well, he's not going to see a lot of double teams, because people aren't going to want to leave their guy open for a three-pointer. So that's going to make them harder to guard defensively, and that's one of the problems with trying to take on the Milwaukee Bucks, is they can spread the floor really well, which gives Giannis all the space he needs to get to the basket.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the other series in the East, you got the 76ers versus the Raptors, and both these teams, well, Toronto's been in this situation before. It's a little bit new territory for Philly, but how do you see, do you think this series is going to be close, or does one team have an edge over the other?
I think Toronto has the edge because of Kawhi Leonard. Not just because Kawhi is on the team, but because Kawhi comes with championship experience. Him and Danny Green come from the Spurs. They have 2 championships. They know what it takes to win. There's not a single guy on that Sixers squad starting on that roster who can say the same. Tobias Harris, no championships. Joel Embiid, no championships. Ben Simmons, no championships. J.J. Redick, no championships. They don't have anyone that they can look to. Jimmy Butler, no championships. Nobody on that roster they can look to who comes from that kind of background on the court that they can look to and give them that kind of leadership. So I think that's going to be a huge, And then when you look at it, so the Sixers have plenty of talent, and I just named them all. Like their starting five is great. Embiid, Butler, Ben Simmons, J.J. Redick, Tobias Harris. That is a formidable starting five, and their ceiling is the NBA Finals. They could make it to the finals, but they're woefully inconsistent. They kind of like I mentioned with the Warriors in their first round series with the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
The Sixers have lapses where they don't even show up on defense. So unless they play consistently for 48 minutes each game, I just don't see them winning this series. Is because the Raptors are going to come ready. You think about the Raptors have been one of the best teams in the East for the past few years. Their problem, same as Coach Bud's, was LeBron James. They could not get past LeBron James. Well, they helped fix that situation or that issue by trading away DeMar DeRozan to the Spurs to get Kawhi Leonard, because Kawhi Leonard has beaten LeBron James in the finals. So I just feel like that level of experience, that championship pedigree, is going to really come into play, and it's going to really be important. And Kawhi's going to have his guys ready. Him and Danny Green, they're gonna make sure those guys know what it takes, and they're going to do what it takes to win, even if it goes 7 games.
Mm-hmm. So you think this series might have the potential to go 7 games?
Yeah, they're both extremely talented teams, and that's not to say that Boston isn't talented. I just think that series could end in 6 because Giannis is so good. But I think these teams, the top level ability of the Sixers versus the grit and the poise and the experience of the Raptors, I think it kind of balances out to where I think we could see a potentially 7-game series.
Mm-hmm. So what are you looking forward, or what are you excited to see this upcoming weekend? Because a lot of these games are going to be played out and start to, because I know you're going to see a lot of the series in the West and everything. And are the East going to start playing their series this weekend, or are they still holding out until the West finishes?
They start this weekend.
Okay. So yeah, what are you looking forward to?
The East games are going to be great, but I think first and foremost, man, tomorrow night, Game 6, Clippers-Warriors. Like, can the Clippers do it again? Can they get another win against the Warriors? Can they force a Game 7? I think that's the thing I'm looking forward to most right now. Because just think about the storylines you get from that. Like, if they force a Game 7, they were down 3-1 in this series. The Warriors, as we know, were once famously up 3-1 in the finals and lost. And that was the year that they broke the record for most wins in the regular season. And this year was supposed to be the most formidable Warriors team that they've ever had, because they have Kevin Durant and they added Boogie Cousins. And if Clippers force a Game 7, then we're looking at the potential opportunity for the Clippers to be an 8 seed, beating a 1 seed, having been down 3-1. And just think about how the narrative about this Warriors team, who's supposed to be one of the best dynasties of all time, if that were to happen, think of the narrative about their legacy. Their back-to-back championships, what could have been their three-peat, that would have put them on the Mount Rushmore of teams. Their back-to-backs would be bookended by 2 down 3-1 losses, one of which was in the finals and one of which would have been to an 8 seed. So to me, I really want to see if the Clippers can pull off another win in Game 6 and force a 7, because if they force the series to go even further, and heaven forbid they actually should they even win the series, but just I feel like just forcing it to go 7 when they should have been swept really calls into question the Warriors' ability to be able to be a championship winner this year. Because they have no reason to be letting the Clippers be in these games. As I mentioned before, these Clippers have no superstars. They have no superstars, no all-stars. And the Warriors are stacked.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason this series should be this close.
Yeah.
So I want to see what happens with Game 6 in that series first before I even get to the East. Because the Clippers, and I know the playoffs aren't supposed to factor into how you vote for Coach of the Year or any of the awards, but if they pull off this not even winning the series, but if they were to force a Game 7, like, man, if I had a vote, I'd be like, man, I want to take my vote back and put in for Doc Rivers, because to be able to take a team with no superstars and then take the team with the most to a Game 7, that would be phenomenal. So That's what I'm looking forward to, that game tomorrow night.
Okay, cool. Where can we appreciate you being on the show, but where can we reach you out on social media?
And you can find me at Brumagin on Twitter.
Well, cool. Thanks for being on the show today, Mike.
No problem.
All right. Well, before I let you guys go, because this is the end of the show, and you're probably clicking off after you heard that conversation with Mike, but that's cool. But if you're still listening, appreciate you listening to this part of the show, because this is like the bonus round. Bonus. So, anyways, mentioned the NBA draft at the beginning of the show, and this is going to be just a random rant that I'm going to go on right now, but I think it's kind of annoying from the standpoint. Yeah, I get it. That I'm not an NFL guy, which, by the way, I am going to have an NFL guy on our next podcast called Football Friday. It might be out when this podcast is out. We kind of putting this podcast together at the last minute. I'll admit that. We're kind of putting this out at the last minute. So I might put this out Friday. I might put this out Thursday night. Who knows? We're still kind of calling it Pro Style Thursday. But we are putting out a Football Friday podcast, which maybe we should start calling it Football Saturday, because how late it comes out during the day on Friday. With that all being said, we are having App Stanley from the 3-point conversion coming on, and he's going to talk to you. He's our NFL guy. He's going to give his thoughts and feelings about how he feels about the draft and what he thought and everything like that. So I know y'all are going to be tuning in tonight to the draft to see what happens. But at the same time, just want to address something real quick. And I am starting to get annoyed by how much I go into like the sports channels on my TV at home, and I just scroll through the sports channels to see what's on. And I don't watch it in particular because I'm just not that interested. I want to see what's going on with the SEC network. Is it SEC now, or is it some game? Or are they replaying the G-Day game or some sort of spring game? Or heck, depending on what type of mood I am coming home from work, sometimes I just want to watch those blocks move around and again on the SEC network. We all know that you guys have done it. We all know that if you have the SEC network and you have the alternate networks, which for some reason this weekend in Atlanta at the Battery, for some reason they didn't have the ulterior networks to the ESPN network, the channel ESPN network AB. Yeah, I think you only have 2 of them. Well, no one at the Battery at all their sports bars or all those places that had TV. They didn't have that channel to show G-Day. Just saying. But anyways, when I come home and I scroll through all the channels, and now I'm going off on a tangent, I always see that they're covering the draft like it's happening today, which it is happening today. But when I look at it, it looks like it's in draft week, but it's only like 2 or 3 weeks weeks away. Even at the beginning of the month, I looked at these ESPN channels on the stuff, and they're breaking down all this draft coverage on these particular players, and it looked like the draft was going to happen during that particular day. And I'm just like, that's a little too much. I guess there's not that much going on right now for you to have to, I guess baseball's kind of in the law, which kind of is. Not that many people are hyped about the NBA playoffs because we all know how that's going to go for the most part, even though LeBron's not in it. So I guess the most intriguing thing you have to do is cover the draft like it's happening that week, which it wasn't. And I just got annoyed by it. I'm just like, why, when I turn to this particular channel on ESPN, why are they doing this draft analysis when the draft's 3 weeks away? I just didn't get it. But I guess it's where we are as American sports observers in this country, that we just love talking football all year round. We wish it would be all year round, kind of like NASCAR races. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's the most intriguing thing, that you could have a show like that. And I don't know if it was ESPN Live or their own draft show, where they were just breaking it down like it was going to happen. Because I guess I'm just used to when you talk about the draft, you usually talk about the week of or 2 weeks before, but you don't have, like, it doesn't look like it's going to happen tomorrow type of thing. Maybe that's a little bit hard to understand, and I took you through it, but this is the bonus round. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys clicked off when Mike was done. So thank you guys for staying on. Like, subscribe, comment if you like what you heard at this podcast. Also, promo code Alex. Use that promo code Alex when you stroll into a Spaces, Regis. If you need an office for a year, that can definitely help you out. I think Choi's going to be the next promo code, but I'll let you guys know when that happens. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you if you're working out in traffic, whatever you're doing when you're listening to podcasts and you decided to listen to mine. I appreciate it. I'm Alex Berger, by the way. I hope I said that at the beginning of the show, but in case you're wondering, I am Alex Berger. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you have a great draft night and drinking some draft beer. I had to say that. But anyways, we are at episode 51. And episode 51 is Boots. Stay tuned for Football Friday. Coming your way next.